The massive buildup of Russian troops on Ukraine's doorstep has made the crisis along the border more uncertain every day. While Russia and the United States continue to trade accusations about provoking tensions, Ukraine is keenly aware that history actually may be repeating itself, and Russia's annexation of Crimea was just the beginning of Russian President Vladimir Putin's expansion westward. I sat down with the Ukraine's UN Ambassador, Sergiy Kyslytsya, to talk about the crisis. I'm Frank Uciardo, and you're watching TRT World One-on-One. Ambassador Sergiy Kyslytsya, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Yeah, it's my pleasure and my honor. It's a special day for all of us.
Now, at the Security Council, the main topic of a meeting there recently was the crisis along your border. What good did that meeting do, and what did you tell the Council?
So we reached a point in judgment of my government and governments of our partners where we became very aware of the fact that neither our public nor our governments see any visibility of the Security Council. So the issue became quite urgent, whether the Security Council is there or not. So the purpose of the meeting was basically to provide information to the Security Council members about what is going on. Because if there is a need to take a decision at a later stage.
What did you tell the Council that day?
I provided the Council with factual information. I provided the Council with the most recent facts concerning the build-up of the Russian troops and the actions that are taking place either at the border or at the touchline. I also repeated several times in the course of my intervention that it is not the intention of the government of Ukraine to attack or to stage any provocations. I also said many times that the actions of the Russian side should be judged not by their statements, but by their action. And by that we mean that the best proof of no intentions on the Russian side to attack us is to withdraw the troops from the Ukrainian border.
Now, when we asked the Russian ambassador about that, he dodged questions about the troop buildup. What exactly is the reality on your border now? What are the numbers that you are hearing or seeing?
The numbers are like 120 to 130 troops currently around the border, and an increased number of troops that the Russians move to Belarus under the pretext of a military drill.
As far as Russia also sending troops to Belarus for what they call a military exercise, what kind of signal is that sending to you?
That the threat is hanging over us, and that allegedly they can resort to some military action. From what I can read, it's very difficult to read the Russians because basically the only person who is really reliable is Putin. I mean, unless we hear it directly from Putin, it's very difficult to be sure of what's going on.
When the U.S. announced they were sending troops near your country, and they were sending troops to Poland, Germany, and Romania, about more than 3,000, would you have preferred some of those troops be in your country, on your border?
I would prefer that we continue to stay in touch with the political and military leadership of the United States, as we do daily, but the Americans do what they believe is the right thing to do, and we fully trust them.
Well, well, speaking to that issue, I understand that President Zelensky at one point had criticized the U.S. for pulling their staff out of the embassy in Kiev, and also creating a situation with actually making it bigger than it was a threat, and also kind of damaging your economy? Is that the case?
No, I mean, I need to tell you, there is a lot of, there are many misperceptions, misinterpretations. There are many instances of so-called lost in translation, that my president speaks in Ukrainian. Mm-hmm. And then the Russians interpret that in Russian, and then, referring to Biden or to Psaki or to the State Department spokesperson who speaks in English. And they ably use this massive semantics and oftentimes wrong translation of the words to project a situation that even doesn't exist. My president is responsible primarily for the well-being of his country. And part of the well-being of his country is the mood of the population. It impacts economy, it impacts trade, it impacts exchange rate. And panic does not help us to stay fit to face the challenges, be they military challenges or be they financial challenges or economic challenges. So it is very important. I mean, I on my level have to talk to my relatives in Ukraine, so they would not really panic.
Well, on the other side of this, Moscow was also saying that the U.S. was provoking the escalation. How do you...
I can give you a long list of changing narratives of what Moscow was saying. And that is why the yardstick is action. Enough words. The last sentence of my intervention in Security Council was, let's judge by actions. Enough riddles and semantic puzzles. We want to see actions. And the primary action we want to see is withdrawal of the Russian troops from Ukrainian border.
So what happened with Crimea?
Because when we went to the Security Council in 2014, Russia basically vetoed any chance of having a meaningful resolution, and then we had to go to the General Assembly, and the General Assembly passed the resolution on the territorial integrity, and we are very grateful to Turkey for supporting that resolution. In fact, we are very grateful to Turkey for supporting all the resolutions that we take to the General Assembly.
What do you want from the West in this situation and the Allies?
We have a very good feeling that the majority of countries now realize that it concerns not only Ukraine, that if something happens this time, it will have a very direct negative impact on the security, economy, and well-being of many, many, many countries, even if countries are directly not next to our region. There is one country not far away from Turkey. I don't want to name that country, but 70% of grain supply to that country comes from Ukraine. That country is in very bad economic shape. And imagine if this grain supply is interrupted.
What country are we talking about there? I think we can tell the audience, name that country without offending anybody.
Lebanon. Mm-hmm. I'm full of sympathy when it comes to Lebanon because people, very nice, beautiful people of Lebanon are suffering for a very long list of issues.
Russia said they see Ukraine joining NATO as a serious threat to their security. Is there any chance of Ukraine joining NATO?
Oh, Russia sees a threat, and Russia say that it is encircled by NATO. Let me remind your listeners and viewers that the border of Russia is more than 20,000 kilometers. Do they know, your listeners and viewers, how long is the NATO border with Russia? 1,215 kilometers out of more than 20,000 kilometers. So to say that Russia is encircled by NATO is a bit of an exaggeration, isn't it? And in NATO is a part of the constitution of Ukraine. And if you ask me who pushed the Ukrainians to be so dedicated to the idea of joining NATO, that's Mr. Putin. After the Ukrainians saw how they were attacked and how many Ukrainians were killed, now if you have a poll in Ukraine, you will have a very, very strong majority in favor of NATO membership.
Let me read you a quote from your foreign minister recently. He said, "What is reassuring, though, is that we are already seeing diplomacy is working." But he also said, this does not mean that we have to relax and believe the worst-case scenario is avoided. What evidence do you have that diplomacy is working now?
Oh, the diplomacy does work.
Is it working now in this situation?
Absolutely.
How?
Even if you see how almost daily we have foreign leaders coming to Ukraine. Yesterday, Boris Johnson. Before that, Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Prime Minister of Poland. Today, we are happy to welcome President of Turkey, Erdogan, for the session of the Strategic Council.
Speaking to that issue, President Erdogan is uniquely positioned because of his relationship with Putin and his relationship with President Zelensky to mediate this situation. If he arranged a summit in Ankara with President Putin, would President Zelensky come there?
My leadership says we're willing to sit down with the Russians, with the leadership of the Russian Federation.
A lot of people are thinking, what if? What if the Russians came across that border? Would you be able to stop them? And which country
It would be a bloodshed of unprecedented scale. Much worse than we had in 2014. Much worse. And that is one of the most compelling reasons for us to work on diplomatic tracks to stop it. It will be 100%, I can guarantee you, suicidal to Putin himself. Because the way the nation is united, even if should they have no arms in their hands, they would kill Russians or rather fight Russians with their fists.
Ambassador Sergiy Kyslytsya, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to talk to you, as I said, on the anniversary of diplomatic relations between Turkey and Ukraine.